Good afternoon. York Regional Police unveiled new developments in an investigation into a string of violent incidents across Ontario and Quebec.
13 people have been arrested as part of Project Wrangler, a joint investigation between a number of GTA police services. CTV's Beth Macdonell joins us live from York Regional Police Headquarters with more. Beth.
Nathan, the chief of York Regional Police, called the violence stemming from these incidents brutal and brazen. They took place over nearly a year between April 2024 and March of this year. They took place across southern Ontario, eastern Ontario, and into Quebec. Now take a look here at the type of violence we're dealing with. They include jewelry store and cell phone robberies, a shooting at the London, Ontario emergency room, incidents like armed carjackings and home invasions. Some of the incidents show people in public or at their place of work hunkered down and frightened. Police say the activities were being driven by a criminal organization that recruited young people underage to carry out violence and crime. Police say by identifying patterns, sharing information, and teaming up with various police agencies, they were able to execute search warrants and make more than a dozen arrests.
This was not a traditional street gang, but rather a coalition of adult men from different groups and locations who would align themselves for profit-motivated violence. Over many months, we allege that individuals within this network coordinated and carried out numerous organized offences, including homicide, attempt homicide, home invasions, armed robberies, firearms-related offences, and a number of serious incidents across other jurisdictions outside of just the GTA.
These acts were brazen, they were brutal, and they're completely unacceptable. When it comes to committing violence, these suspects certainly did not discriminate. They showed complete disregard for the value of human life, and they left hundreds of victims in their wake. When a store or a bank is robbed, or a car or cash is stolen, we're not just losing property. Our communities are losing their collective sense of safety and security.
In all, more than 150 charges have been laid and 2 suspects remain outstanding. 24-year-old Tristan Casanova Allman of No Fix Addressed and 20-year-old Ingram Mohammed of Hamilton. Reporting live, I'm Beth Macdonell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. A possible road rage shooting near Milton early this morning shut down a section of the 401. Police released these images of the victim's vehicle. The westbound lanes of the 401 were shut down between Guelph Line and Highway 6 South for several hours this morning as police investigated. Police say the suspect vehicle is a dark sedan, but have not provided any other details. They're asking anyone with information to call Cambridge OPP. And York Regional Police are investigating after shots were fired at a business in Markham last night. It happened in a plaza near Highway 7 in Woodbine around 11:30. Police say a suspect fired several rounds towards the business before leaving the area. No injuries were reported, and investigators have not given a suspect description. They're asking anybody with information to come forward.
Toronto police have launched an investigation after multiple Jewish prayer scrolls were removed from the doorways of units at a North York apartment. Police say roughly 20 of the scrolls, known as mezuzahs, were taken from doorways in a building located at Bathurst and Steeles. They have not indicated exactly when the thefts happened, but say all the reports were received on Sunday. Police are investigating this incident as a potential hate crime, and they're asking anyone with information to come forward. Toronto Community Housing Corporation and Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation workers have voted to ratify new 4-year collective agreements. CUPE Local 79 says members will see pay increases totaling more than 14% over the course of the deals. Both agreements also establish a new union health and safety position, along with strengthened protections and clearer processes to address violence, hazards, and workplace investigations.
Still to come, Air Transat passengers are bracing for some turbulence ahead of the holidays. The airline's pilots could begin a strike Wednesday, and the airline's already indicated it will begin suspending flights. We've got those details a little later in the newscast. But first, Mayor Olivia Chow announced a fare capping program for the TTC, which is set to begin in September.
Right now, you face an impossible choice. Pay $156 up front for a monthly pass when rent is due or pay per trip and spend more over the month. For a working couple with 2 teenagers in school, that's close to $600 a month. No family should have to choose between rent, food, or getting around.
The program would see customers automatically ride for free for the rest of the month after taking 47 trips. Chow says she also plans to extend the program in 2027 with fare capping kicking in after 40 trips. The fare cap will also apply to senior and youth fares. The province is investing $20 million to install concrete barriers at childcare centers.
The fund is named in honor of a toddler who was killed after a car smashed into a Richmond Hill daycare earlier this year. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
It was a moment of unspeakable tragedy, hard to comprehend. A driver crashed through the window of a Richmond Hill daycare and barreled deep inside. 6 children and 3 adults were injured. A 17-month-old boy killed. Today, the provincial government took steps to prevent this kind of loss.
In Liam's honor, we are investing $20 million to launch the Liam Riazadi Memorial Fund.
This is a program aimed at daycares starting up early in the new year.
Community-based childcare operators will be able to access a simple application process that will make it easy for them to arrange the delivery and installation of the barriers that will be supplied free of charge.
Immediately after the crash, Calandra ordered parking lots in front of large windows like this one closed off. Operators have said they need help to improve safety.
$20 million really is a start. We wanted to be able to get out there and look at those locations that have the most pressing needs.
Open to adding more funding while the government looks at other changes.
We'll be consulting with the sector to look at ways of improving safety and security outside and inside. Ultimately, I think in the long term, we're going to be looking at bollards and different ways of protecting the childcare centres.
Consultations are expected to take a few months with legislation to follow, but Calandra says many operators have already made changes on their own. Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Today marks the first weekday service for the newly opened Finch West LRT. The
long-delayed line opened to the public over the weekend. CTV's Sean Lathong has more on the latest addition to the city's transit infrastructure. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, I'm at the end of the line here at Humber College, the 10.3-kilometer stretch going from Finch West Station to right here. So we wanted to check in and see how the commute was for people who are the first paying customers today. We know it opened yesterday to much fanfare, the first time in some 23 years that a major transit line has opened in the city of Toronto. Today, many of the people coming were making their morning commute, switching from the 36 bus onto the LRT line. And we asked some of them just what they thought of the ride and what they thought of how quick this service actually was.
It can be slow. Yeah, there's points where you're waiting for a good 5 minutes.
People were saying yesterday it was slow, but like I got here quick, so I can't complain about it.
Honestly, this is a lot faster. It's really helpful.
I don't really know like the miles per hour that it went, but I don't know. It just felt like it was slow, stopping at the lights.
Like obviously being kind of slower, it's not as like I'm assuming it's not what everyone wanted, but it's still a good step up from what we had before.
If we could go a little bit faster, then it would be a perfect.
Definitely not as fast as I was expecting it to be, but overall I'd say it was a pretty nice experience.
So that is something that we had heard yesterday, that some people were complaining that the ride itself was a little slower than they had expected. Now, the TTC is being cautious, and we know that through their operating hours as well. It's kind of a soft opening. They're considering it until the spring of 2026, where they're operating on weekdays from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m., and then buses are taking over on the route until that time, 7:30 until 10 p.m. on weekends. And then they'll be doing testing throughout the night to make sure the line is running well, with full service coming in the spring. Reporting live, I'm Sean Lathong. Nathan, Michelle, send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Sean. We have more news in a moment, but first a look at the forecast. Here's a live look at the city this afternoon. Lots of sunshine, but don't let that fool you. It's a cold one to start the work and school week, so bundle up if you're heading outside. Lindsay Morrison here with a look at the current conditions. Hey, Lindsay.
Temperature-wise, we started off the day today at minus 13 degrees. That's our coldest temperature of the season so far. Some communities were significantly colder, including Peterborough, where it was minus 25 degrees this morning, and that's the core temperature, not the wind chill. At this hour, it is minus 5 degrees at Pearson Airport. Still feels like minus 10. The wind's not overly strong, and they are coming out of the southwest. They will strengthen into the day tomorrow, and there's going to be some active weather to go along with that strengthening. Mix of sun and cloud today, enjoy it, but like Nathan said, don't let that sunshine fool you. You do need to bundle up for the rest of the afternoon. Daytime high, minus 5. We're already there. Tomorrow will be a little bit warmer, but we've got some snow in the forecast. We'll show you how much and when it's expected to fall coming up. For now, Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. At least 159 people died as a result of a massive apartment fire in Hong Kong earlier this month.
Now, Toronto's Chinese community has launched a fundraising effort to support those impacted by the devastating fire. CTV's Raheem Ladani joins us live from Markham this afternoon with more on this aid effort. Raheem.
Hi, Michelle and Nathan. Yes, the Chinese community across York Region is quite prominent and happening right now behind me in Markham Civic Center. 4 Chinese nonprofit organizations and charities are coming together to pool their resources and put a call out to the community to help those who have been impacted by this deadly and devastating fire in Hong Kong. Their goal is to raise $500,000 over the next 6 weeks. As Nathan mentioned, this fire has already claimed the lives of 159 people. More than 4,000 other individuals have been displaced and dozens of others are still missing. What we know is that flames engulfed 8 buildings in a public housing complex in Hong Kong's Tai Po district on November 26th. Every day since, we're getting reports that the buildings, which were undergoing extensive renovation, did not meet safety standards. Everything from the construction, scaffolding being highly flammable to fire alarms not working. Local authorities have arrested a number of people already. But here in Markham, community members say it's very difficult to achieve justice and accountability because of the strict government rule. And so today they're focusing on the victims. The money raised from this initiative will go towards providing emergency relief, medical support, aid for displaced households. Have a listen to what they're saying about this initiative titled Toronto Responds Support for Hong Kong Victims.
Let the people in Hong Kong know that half a world away, particularly the Toronto community, the Chinese community, is together with them in spirit and also in actual action to help them fight this particular disaster.
Now, anyone can make a donation through the CPAC Foundation. The short-term goal is to raise half of the money. That's $250,000 by Christmas. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. The federal government has introduced an express entry category for foreign-trained doctors. Officials say it's intended to address health workforce challenges in Canada.
To recruit the doctors we need, to retain the ones we have, and to cut processing times to ensure it all gets done quickly.
The government says the program gives physicians a pathway to permanent residence to fill crucial gaps. Foreign-trained doctors who are nominated will get expedited 14-day work permit processing. There will be 5,000 federal admission spots, as well as provincial and territorial allocations. Millions of Canadians don't have a primary care professional like a family doctor, nurse practitioner, or primary care team.
In Ottawa, Parliament's holiday break is quickly approaching, and Prime Minister Mark Carney's budget remains stuck in the House of Commons.
Now, a new survey suggests Canadians don't see how the spending document will help them financially. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the details.
It's a book filled with big promises, but Federal Budget 2025 doesn't do enough to help Canadians with their finances, according to a new survey.
The budget has a long-term vision for jobs. Maybe it's put a spotlight on the fact that good economic policy might not make for good politics.
A new Nanos survey conducted for CTV News shows less than 1 in 5 Canadians think the government's fiscal plan will help them financially. In fact, just over 1 in 3 believe the budget will in some way worsen their personal finances.
That's not a very great number for a government that is looking to build confidence in Canadians who are struggling to pay for the bills.
Meanwhile, the budget bill itself is far from becoming law yet.
It's a minority parliament, so getting legislation passed is a challenge.
The official legislation is still stuck in the House of Commons being debated and has several hurdles to cross still, with only a week left on the sitting schedule this year.
I mean, you can't actually start to move on those provisions. You can't get the second reading vote. You can't get it passed into law. And so that's going to start to affect real things. Measures that were planned to be implemented in January might not.
The honourable member. A political roadblock the Liberals could continue to face in the new year, even though Green Party leader Elizabeth May is leaving the door open to supporting the Liberal government in the future, despite recently saying her vote in favour of the budget was a mistake.
I'm a bridge builder, and I never say never.
May says her vote moving forward would require a change in policies.
I can't vote confidence on the current policies, period.
And so the Liberals seem poised to start 2026 how they're finishing 2025, fighting to get a major piece of legislation through the House of Commons and without a clear path to survive the next confidence vote when it comes. Jeremy Chion, CTV News, Ottawa.
Air Transat pilots could be walking off the job as early as Wednesday after their union issued a 72-hour strike notice. Now the airline says flight cancellations will begin tomorrow. It comes after 99% of pilots voted in favor of a strike last week. And CTV's Scott Hurst has been following this story and joins us live with more details. Scott, with a 72-hour strike notice in place, what are the main issues?
Nathan, good afternoon. First and foremost, a lot of anxiety for travelers because, of course, the holiday season, particularly the days leading up to Christmas and New Year's, some of the busiest airport travel days of the year. So this could have a significant impact on the holiday plans of many Canadians as Air Transat flies thousands of passengers every week on hundreds of flights. Now, the union, representing some 750 pilots, the Airline Pilots Association, says the goal here is a new collective agreement that boosts wages, improves job security, gives them better working conditions and quality of life. Earlier this month, 99% of pilots voted in favor of a strike if it got to that point, arguing there have been months of unproductive bargaining from its perspective, and that has left them no choice. Here's more from the union on what they're looking to get from negotiations.
We're trying to bring compensation up to date along with our pension, the benefits, and also one of the most important items, job security.
Nathan, Air Transat pilots have been negotiating for almost a year to replace their current collective agreement from a decade ago.
And what's the airline's plan to get people back before the official strike?
The airline will need to ramp down its service over the next couple of days, preparing for this 3 a.m. deadline. That is the 72-hour strike notice that was initiated over the weekend. So in terms of flights, expect to see some cancellations beginning today and then have a full slate of cancellations tomorrow in preparation for that 3 a.m. Wednesday deadline for when job action could begin. Now, from the company's perspective, the company that owns the leisure airline, it's calling the union's move reckless and premature, arguing that there has been progress at the bargaining table, with the airline saying it's offered 59% salary increase over 5 years, along with significant improvements to pilots' working conditions. Now, I did get a response from the union earlier today saying, at the very least, talks have continued in Montreal, and that talks over the weekend were extended into the early hours of this morning and then picked back up today. And so there is potentially some progress there, that the two sides are at least still at the bargaining table with this deadline of Wednesday now, fast approaching, however.
Or hopefully they can work something out. CTV's Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom.
Thanks, Nathan.
A family who moved from Brazil to Canada 9 years ago is now facing deportation and sharing their story.
They say the licensed immigration consultant they worked with failed to do her job properly. CTV's Judy Trin has the story.
So you hired her in 2023. The life Paolo and Lyra Mira built in Ottawa is unraveling. They first arrived from Brazil in 2016 as a family of 4. It grew to 5 with the birth of their youngest daughter. Now they're being ordered to leave Canada.
I don't want to go back to Brazil because I have my life here. Sorry.
Sorry, this situation is killing me.
2 years ago, Paulo, a temporary foreign worker in construction, hired an immigration consultant to help them get permanent residence. They paid Ana Raquel Perdomo about $3,000 to take care of the paperwork, including renewing work permits. Paulo documented all the calls and emails that were not returned and the excuses.
After 6 months, answer my email. Oh, now I have a paralysis in my face, in my. But you go, oh my goodness.
Later, the Miras learned the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants had revoked Perdomo's license for being unresponsive with another client. That's when Leila called federal immigration officials.
I'm so sorry, but you lost your status, I said. What?
Their temporary resident status had expired 3 months earlier. They weren't informed that biometric fees were needed to process their new work permits. Now the Miras are relying on friends to stay afloat. Without status, the couple and their eldest daughter were forced to quit their jobs.
It feels like you're at the top of a cliff, not knowing if you'll fall or if you'll be saved.
CTV News tried to reach Perdomo by phone, by email, and over social media. She didn't respond to any of our queries. Immigration experts say this ultimately comes down to buyer beware, that there's little the Miras can do except for returning to Brazil and reapplying for a work permit. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Artificial intelligence is expected to dominate the agenda when industry, digital, and technology ministers from G7 countries meet in Montreal this week. The two-day event is part of a series of ministerial meetings being held in Canada this year as the country hosts the G7. The Centre for International Governance Innovation is expecting digital technology issues to dominate the conversation because of their links to issues like economic competitiveness.
U.S. President Donald Trump was non-committal when asked whether he would resume trade talks with Canada.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you know, the problem is Canada makes a lot of things that we don't need because we make them also. But we'll work it out. Look, Canada's a special place, and they really are good at ice hockey, aren't they?
Trump commented on the trade war as he spoke with reporters outside a gala for the 2025 Kennedy Center honors. He says he has a good relationship with Canada and Prime Minister Mark Carney. President Trump stopped trade talks in October following an ad run by the Ford government, which used audio of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan criticizing tariffs.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is set to host Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to discuss America's proposed plan to end the war in Ukraine. The pair will also meet with leaders of France and Germany. A number of European officials have expressed concern that the U.S. plan is too favorable towards Russia. However, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed frustration with the slow pace of the talks. He's placed the blame with Zelensky, suggesting the Ukrainian leader has not read the proposed peace plan.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the second phase of the ceasefire with Hamas should begin soon. It will begin after Hamas returns the remains of the last hostage in Gaza. That search, which involves the Red Cross, is currently underway. The ceasefire's second phase involves disarming Hamas militants and demilitarizing Gaza. It also includes deploying an international force to secure the enclave and form a temporary Palestinian government. That government would handle day-to-day affairs under the supervision of an international board led by U.S. President Donald Trump.
A water leak in late November has damaged hundreds of works in the Louvre's Egyptian department. The damaged items date from the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Louvre officials say no heritage artifacts were affected by the damage. An internal investigation found the leak was caused by an accidental opening of a valve in the heating and ventilation system, which led to water seeping through the ceiling of one of the museum's wings.
Stockholm has been lit up by colorful art installations honoring the work of Nobel Prize laureates. The festival is presented by the Nobel Prize Museum, and it brings together international and local artists, designers, and students. 19 large-scale installations are on display across the city until December 14th. The artworks are inspired by the laureates' scientific discoveries as well as their contributions in literature and peace. Organizers say there could be more than 1 million visitors this year, including tourists.
Finding the perfect Christmas tree can be a tall task, and in Saskatchewan, people are able to select from one of the province's national parks.
It's part of an effort to give people as much choice as possible and also reduce the risk of wildfires. CTV's Allison Bamford explains.
It's a trip the Barrett family makes every year, trudging through the snow with their heads up.
There's like a few boulder spots, so that'll be against the window.
Hunting for the perfect Christmas tree.
That's the thing that makes this part hard, is because I have a very specific type of tree that I want in mind.
A search rooted in family tradition that they started 3 years ago.
25, 30 feet.
Volume, shape, and size are at the top of their wish list.
And being able to get it home on our little truck is another thing that's very important for us right now.
The public can harvest the trees from the Waskesiu Community Fuel Break, about 200 kilometers north of Saskatoon.
That's an area around Waskesiu where coniferous trees are removed, as they're more flammable than something like an aspen tree.
Officials say removing trees from the fuel break reduces the wildfire risk. This summer, Parks Canada issued pre-evacuation alerts for the area. Smoke blanketed the community as a nearby wildfire burned about 30 kilometers away.
In the event of a wildfire, having those trees thinned out would slow the speed of an approaching wildfire and help give time for the community to prepare.
And the Barretts appreciate giving back to a community they've grown to love.
Understanding that sort of the responsibility for the community management definitely gives us more confidence coming and doing this sort of thing, where we wouldn't typically want to disturb nature in this manner.
Last year, 160 trees were harvested before the holidays, but with the number of young trees in the area, officials say supply for the annual event will continue to grow.
As we're getting kids coming along here, we have a young girl coming in February. We're excited to keep the tradition sort of alive.
For many years to come. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Waskesiu.
Well, in many parts of Ontario today, the temperatures are some of the coldest we have experienced in about 9 months. Take a look at some of the lows reached early this morning. Temperatures in the -20s around Algonquin, Bancroft, Timmins, even Waterloo, -20.8 degrees this morning. That's very close to our record low here in the city of Toronto. We were not quite as cold, but we're also below seasonal again today. Our forecast daytime high is -5 degrees. We're already there. We'll see if we can inch a degree or two warmer than that. Mix of sun and cloud could help. Tomorrow, though, we're talking about snow, maybe up to 5 centimeters of it, and the timing could impact your afternoon drive. Details after the break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, we have glorious sunshine to start this week, but my goodness, is it cold out there. You have to bundle up.
Yeah, for sure. It does look good out there, but it is a cold one, so you got to bundle up.
Yeah, I mean, so much of December has been cold, below seasonal, but this is our coldest day, if you can believe it. And that's saying something, considering just how chilly it has felt. Here's the thing, this is a bit of a one-off this time around. It was very cold this morning. We remain below seasonal through this afternoon. Tomorrow, though, warmer, closer to the freezing mark, but we've got some active weather to talk about. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm Injury Lawyers. You don't pay unless they win. The cold weather has been great for some, and specifically, it's been great for skiers and snowboarders. The Ontario ski season is underway. Many resorts opening for the season, including Blue Mountain this past weekend. Not only has there been a lot of natural snow, courtesy of Mother Nature, system snow, snow squalls, but also temperatures. These cold conditions have been ideal for snow making. So this is great news economically, and of course for the fun involved for those who enjoy winter this way. Great start. Happy to see people hitting the slopes. Let's take a look at the snow that's in the forecast for us here in the GTA. Not much to show you right now on the satellite and radar, but we do have a couple of clipper systems that are going to swing through. The first one for tomorrow, and this looks to be a snow event. Clippers are generally fast moving. They bring us a few centimeters of snow and then they move on their way. Into Wednesday, not only are we going to get some snow, but we might get some mixed precip too. So there's tomorrow. Snow beginning around noon, continuing through the afternoon and likely impacting the evening commute. Again, couple of centimeters of snow expected. Then overnight into Wednesday, the next disturbance comes. This one starts off at snow and is likely to change to rain as the temperature rises through the day. So a bit of a slushy mess for your Wednesday. Thursday, we're going to cool back down again. Gusty winds on the backside of that low, triggering some lake effect flurries once again. So it's not a whole lot of snow, at least not here in the GTA. Areas outside, traditional snow belt areas, likely to see upwards of 10 centimeters of snow. We could get anywhere from 2 to 5. So just a heads up for the next couple of days here. Today, again, snow, not so much the story. It is the cold. -5 is where we stand right now. Here's our evening at a glance. Partly cloudy skies, wind chill a factor, even though the wind's not overly strong. Overnight tonight, we drop to -10 degrees, which will feel more like -13. There's tomorrow, daytime high of 0, which is an improvement. But again, we do have the snow in the forecast. And highs, generally speaking, tomorrow are going to be somewhere just slightly at, above, or slightly below freezing. Closer to seasonal, but still a little cool for this time of year. Let's talk about your 7-day forecast, which brings some variety. There's Wednesday and 4 degrees. That's mild, so that brings us that potential of snow changing to rain. Cooler again, though, for Thursday. -4 degrees is the forecast daytime high. Friday's looking pretty good at this point. -2 degrees, mix of sun and cloud. Looks like we could get a few flurries through next weekend as well. That's the weather for now. Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. The Raptors were looking to snap a 2-game losing skid when they took on the Boston Celtics last night.
Get back to yourself in the game, plays like this.
The Raptors regained the lead after being down by 18 at halftime, but they could not hold off the Celtics, who ended up winning the game 121-113. The Raptors will be back on the court Tuesday when they host the New York Knicks in the NBA Cup quarterfinals.
The Scepters faced off against the Montreal Victoire yesterday afternoon.
Taken back again. Gentry is in. Shot scores! What a shot!
Trailing 2-0 after 2. The Scepters got on the board early in the final frame, but that would be as close as Toronto would get as Montreal went on to win 3-1. These two teams meet again on Wednesday night in Halifax as part of this season's takeover tour.
The Toronto Maple Leafs will be looking to get back into the win column when they face off with the Tampa Bay Lightning tonight.
The 2-1 in the shootout. John Tavares, second Leaf shooter. And Tavares stopped, third Leaf shooter at Dobish. And the Canadians have won it.
The team's coming off a 2-1 shootout loss to the Montreal Canadiens Saturday. Puck drop for tonight's game against Tampa Bay is set for just after 7:30 at Scotiabank Arena.
And still to come, a new study suggests social media is having a noticeable impact on teens' intelligence. We'll take a closer look at what the data reveals when we return. A new study reveals teens who use social media more score worse on cognitive tests.
For more on this, we're joined by CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin. So, Dan, I understand you're off to Australia on Wednesday where they've banned social media. Is this a good move?
Yeah, well, I think so. They've banned social media for kids under the age of 16 in Australia. And I think the rest of the world's watching to see how that goes. We're already hearing from some very grumpy 15-year-olds who say, hang on, I want to make this choice. But, you know, whether we're going to look back at social media as the smoking of our generation, where it's like we can't believe we let kids use this stuff. This new study came out that kind of supports what the Australian government's doing. It shows that kids score worse on cognitive tests if they're the kids that are using social media more. So these are a bunch of kids that were all sort of not using social media at the age of 9. They were tracked for 3 years. And after 3 years, some of them were using it more than 3 hours a day. Some of them still weren't using it. And when you compare how much they're using it with their performance on tests of things like, read this paragraph and tell me what was said, or here's a picture, tell me what it's a picture of using your vocabulary. vocabulary, or things like that. Kids score worse if they're using social media more, and it's not a huge signal, but it is a significant one. So they're doing a little bit worse, and the researchers say it's probably just it comes down to the fact that you've only got so much time in the day to learn. And if you're spending that time scrolling on a screen, you're not spending that time reading or just interacting with the world in its real form. And so that seems to be hurting kids cognitively.
I think it makes sense.
Gives us a lot to think about. Dan, there was once a movie and a TV show called Fame, and the tagline was, "I'm gonna live forever." But there's a study that says if you're famous, you don't live as long. I'm just worried about Nathan, because he's a pretty famous guy.
He is famous.
When did I become famous?
Are you gonna?
He's very famous, and his life may be at risk as a result. Famous singers, famously, I guess is the word for it, die younger, right? They burn out. They burn quick. Is that because they're famous, or is it just because they're musicians, right? And so it's unclear what the driver of that is. And so in this new study, they took about 320 famous performers who were either in bands or solo artists, and for each one they found somebody else who tried to make it and was the same age, same ethnicity, same gender, started from the same place but didn't hit it famous. And they compared the lifespans of those pairs of people, and they found that the people that made it big did die sooner, about 4.5 years on average. And so their mortality rate, if you do the calculation, is about 30% higher. And so this shows that, when you hit it big, there's just different pressures, different stresses, and different influences, and maybe different access to certain kinds of chemicals that do shorten your lifespan. And so researchers say this is important in part because we want to protect everybody, but not necessarily because the lives of the celebrities are what's at risk. It's because when a celebrity dies young, sometimes you get people that are copycats or other things, and it can affect society at large. And so protecting celebrities is important for that reason, too.
So don't get too big. Local famous is probably good.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to be okay. I think you're going to be okay.
Finally, a new study says if you talk with your hands, which I do, you can be more convincing?
Yes, and you're very convincing, so it's clearly because you're using your hands. They looked at a bunch of TED Talks and how many likes they got. They also did a controlled experiment where they had people do a product pitch like you would see on Dragon's Den, but with or without hand gestures. And in both cases, they saw the same signal. Hand gestures help you come off as more authentic and more believable, but they have to be the right hand gestures. You can't just wave your arms for no reason. It helps best if you're talking and you're making the point with your hands. So if you're talking about something big or something small, or it's something that occurs in layers or things that come together, if you're using your hands to make those illustrations, that's the sweet sauce.
We're learning so much.
I know.
For
how to
me,
live long, how to be convincing.
When I
bring a little bit, but it's good.
Okay, I don't have to hold my hands down so much.
No, you don't have to do that.
All right, let's go. Thank you, Dan Risky.
My pleasure.
Have a great day. Have a great trip.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Well, to other news, there's growing concern in New Brunswick over the possible destruction of the province's historic covered bridges.
CTV's Sarah Plowman has more on the push to preserve the structures.
Long the symbol of New Brunswick, covered bridges are dwindling. The latest loss is the Poirier covered bridge north of Moncton. There was hope the province would save it.
It's sad. I mean, we tried our best to hopefully convince them that they wouldn't tear it down, but they felt that it wasn't safe, so.
It's the third covered bridge to go this year.
We lost one in 2017, one in 2018, and then we did pretty well until this year now with 3 going. That's not a sustainable rate of loss.
Heartland, New Brunswick is proudly home to the world's longest covered bridge, celebrated through tourism, chip brands, and crafts. But these structures that span water and generations are also threatened by floods, vandalism, and their age.
In the 1950s, the heyday of New Brunswick's covered bridges, there were more than 340 in this province, but soon there will be only 56.
Significant dollars have been spent restoring or replacing some, like this double-barreled bridge along the Fundy coast.
That was a win.
But the losses are adding up. This conservation group questions if more could have been done to save this one.
I'm not an engineer, but I've seen covered bridges in far worse shape than like Poirier Bridge that's currently being demolished or dismantled.
When we see deterioration on a bridge, for one reason or another, we either lower the weight-bearing capacity of that bridge or we close that bridge down in some cases when it gets to be a little too extreme.
Once this structure is removed, a steel bridge will be installed, a link over water, but not to the past. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Notre Dame, New Brunswick.
And still to come, the federal government has promised to double the pace of housing construction, but there are concerns it won't be enough to address the affordability crisis. We'll have those details when we come back.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The federal government has promised to double the pace of housing construction in an effort to create more affordable homes across the country.
But a new report is calling that effort into question, with some critics concerned the Liberal plan won't be enough. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver has the details.
We need to get housing supply up. In fact, we need to double housing supply on an annual basis.
Prime Minister Mark Carney's campaign pledge to build nearly 500,000 homes annually so far isn't adding up. According to a new PBO report, Ottawa's new federal agency, Build Canada Homes, is projected to add 26,000 units to the housing supply over the next 5 years, a 2.1% increase over the fiscal watchdog's baseline projection for new home construction.
I think I would give them a C- when it comes to housing. That overall, I think they are moving in the right direction, but not at the speed and scale that's necessary.
The housing minister doesn't see things the same way. He says Build Canada Homes is just getting started and that the PBO's numbers don't tell the whole story.
I think that's just based on the raw number. It's not based on attracting a lot of investment from provinces, from the private sector.
By harnessing private and public sector funding, Ottawa intends to double the pace of housing construction. But so far, it hasn't released a clear plan to achieve that goal. And overall spending on housing, according to the PBO, is set to drop by 56% over the next 3 years as Trudeau-era programs expire.
A lot of the mechanisms that the federal government used weren't terribly effective in creating the affordable housing that people need the most. So I welcome the restart represented by Build Canada Homes, but we have to see a lot more.
The PBO report assumes that major programs like the $4.4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund will not be renewed or topped up. The finance minister, however, says it's not fair to prejudge what decisions the government will make between now and 2029. Annie Bergeron-Oliver, CTV News, Ottawa.
The nominations for the 83rd Annual Golden Globes have been announced.
Best performance in a stand-up comedy or on television. Bill Maher. Is anyone else seeing this? HBO Max.
Paul Thompson Anderson's One Battle After Another has been nominated for 6 awards, including Best Actor. Joaquin Trier's Sentimental Value has also been nominated for 6 awards. And Korean-Canadian director Maggie Kang also earned a Golden Globes nod for Best Animated Feature for her debut film, K-Pop Demon Hunters.
Coming up, miniature trains and their connection to Christmas. We'll have more on a new exhibit explaining the science behind the steam locomotives.
From the Polar Express to a train around the Christmas tree, steam engines are often a symbol of Christmas.
Now, an exhibit in Newfoundland and Labrador is explaining the science behind the locomotives and their connection to the holiday season. CTV's Garrett Berry has the details.
For the young and the young at heart, there's just something about a model train that sparks the imagination.
People love miniatures. It allows you to kind of control a world. And the intricacies of models, too, I think people find very interesting.
You may never have seen them quite like this on display at the Geo Center in St. John's.
I think I like the detail, and the artistic aspect of it is very interesting to me. I've always had a background in art, and I think this really facilitates that well.
For the collection's second year, staff at the Geo Center have added 5 new displays through their model train presentation called Science in Motion. It takes months of planning to perfectly place these miniature versions and all the effects that make the experience complete.
You get the volcano rumble, but more importantly, you get the volcano smoke. So kids love this one. We were having to refill the fog fluid more than we anticipated because, you know, who doesn't love to make a bit of smoke, right?
You will also find a few science lessons along the way on friction, the steam engine, electrical circuits, and everything else that makes these machines tick.
even down to the design and engineering of the wheels and how they stay on the track. So we created some interactives around those components. So hopefully, along with having fun and pressing buttons and seeing the train go around and making the volcano rumble, they're going to learn a bit of science as well.
It's been a small bump to the Science Centre, which brings in about 50,000 people each year. And in this display, there's a lot of little somethings for parents and children to get on board with. Garrett Perry, CTV News, St. John's.
Oh, I love looking at those train models. Okay, gorgeous, picturesque skyline. Don't be fooled, though. It is frigid, and we do have, snow on the ground that hasn't melted because it's been so cold.
Yeah, it kind of looks deceiving out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, we picked up some fresh snow over the weekend in many areas, and there's more to come as we head into the day tomorrow. But first, let's talk about tonight. It's going to be another cold night, just not quite as cold as last night and early this morning, but minus 10 degrees. Yeah, that's still bitterly cold, especially for this point in December. We are still very early on in, technically late in the fall season, early into winter. Tomorrow's forecast daytime high, 0. This is a little closer to where we expect to be this time of year. But yes, we are expecting some snow. It's going to move in for your Tuesday afternoon. A second round is going to move in overnight and impact your Wednesday. That one has the potential to bring us some mixed precip in addition to snow. So maybe some mixing or some rain. There's the 7-day forecast. Bit of a temperature roller coaster. We're up around 4 degrees for Wednesday, minus 4 degrees for Thursday. And then it looks like we will even things out as we move into next weekend. Possibility of some flurries for Saturday. Friday looks pleasant right now with a mix of sun and cloud. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, thank you, Lindsay. And that's it for CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great day.